there, sports entertainment fans. It is good to see you again. Uh, if you don't know me yet, I am the Cheeseburglar, here to talk to you guys about WWE, specifically the 2023 Night of Champions, which took place yesterday. Checking the date, May 27th. Um, I know I promised you guys I would have a video out for you yesterday after Night of Champions, but I had a lot to think about, and not necessarily about the wrestling part of Night of Champions, but the environment, the circumstances. So I've kind of cobbled all of those thoughts together. Um, we're going to talk about some of that as we talk about the wrestling. We're going to talk about some of it at the end. Um, so uh, if you're here for opinions other than wrestling and you're willing to take a listen, stick around. If you just want to hear wrestling, you're probably going to want to turn this off partway through. Um, I used to say the word problematic a lot, and I would say that person is problematic, or that company is problematic. Uh, and I made a pledge to myself at the beginning of 2023 that I was no longer going to use that as a couching device. So now I will say that person is racist, or that corporation is corrupt. So let me say up front, in case any of you were not aware, Saudi Arabia is one of the worst human rights offenders in the world. Like, by data, they're within the bottom 5. So we're going to touch on that more, but I just wanted to make it plain that that's kind of where this is coming from. Let's talk about the wrestling first. So first up, Seth freaking Rollins versus AJ Styles for that brand new inaugural World Heavyweight Championship. Um, I thought it was kind of strange that this was the first match. I had heard that maybe it was the first match because Seth Rollins needed to book out of there and get back to Marvel Land, where he's currently filming the new upcoming Captain America movie. Um, so it was strange to see one of the main events opening, but both AJ and Seth brought great energy. I thought it was a really good match. It went exactly the way I thought it was going to go, which was to which is to Seth Rollins. But you know what? AJ looked good. He acquitted himself well. I am almost always impressed when I see him because dude is, and he's close to my age. He's in his mid to late 40s. He still moves really well. He's got a nice little burst of speed when he needs it. Um, it looked like wrestling. You know, there weren't a lot of hijinks. There wasn't any funny stuff. Um, it was just a good, clean match with two guys um, that wrestle well and comport themselves well and know how to work a microphone. Um, so congratulations, Seth Rollins. Uh, well deserved. I certainly hope that wasn't the last we see of AJ Styles. I don't think it will be. And I hope that in the next couple of years he gets the retirement befitting a veteran of his status and stature. So second match I want to talk about, Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. Why was this non-title match in Night of Champions? I don't know. Um, Obviously, because they're trying to give it a push, because it's going to lead to more stuff planned down the road. Totally get that. But I still felt a little about the fact that there were title matches that got relegated to SmackDown or to Raw, and here we've got non-titles matches, 2 of them I think, um, thrown in the middle of this event that is meant for champions. Anyhow, uh, unsurprisingly, Cody's got a broken arm. It's in a cast, which makes a great weapon because he can beat Brock with the cast. True to form, Brock Lesnar bled in the ring. That, you know what? I'm not familiar with the guy's career before March of this year, so I don't know if that's a signature for him. Um, but there he was, bleeding in the ring again. Um, you know what though? It was a good match. It was an entertaining match. Um, I expected Brock to win. He did win. Um, I think that Cody's road of humiliation is coming to a head. I don't think it's going to last much longer. They've got to turn him around and start to send him upward soonish, or people are just going to lose interest in the guy. No one's going to want to buy a T-shirt from a guy who never wins. Um, so I was glad to see that it was a good match and that it wasn't just a quick squash. I was glad to see the cast being used uh, as a weapon. Very smart move. Uh, yeah, I did not. The match was not as disappointing as I thought it had the potential to be. I still don't see myself getting really excited for a Rhodes Lesnar match anytime real soon. But it was fine. Third match I want to talk about. I have to look at my notes, make sure I don't miss any. Gunter versus Mustafa Ali for the Intercontinental Championship. First of all, love Gunter, love Imperium. Always disappointed when Ludwig Kaiser introduces Gunther, just because Samantha Irvin is so brilliant at it. Um, but from the first 2, 3 notes of his entry music, like, I'm psyched, I'm ready to go. I know this is just going to be just a big dude in there to smash people up. Um, I really enjoyed Mustafa Ali's clip package beforehand. I was glad that the handful of Muslim wrestlers that were there on the trip were able to go to the Kaaba and to do their secondary pilgrimage. That was so meaningful and so touching. And like, if you have to fly 16 hours on a work trip and can also find like spiritual fulfillment from that, good for you. And it's great that WWE gave them the time, because I'm sure they had them out doing promotional stuff and Make a Wish, but then they gave them the time to accommodate that. So that's a big up. Um, you know, Gunter's not a fast guy. He's coming in. He's very measured. He's going to hit you hard, but he's got to catch you. And I thought Mustafa Ali was really made a good showing for himself in the air, on the ropes. Uh, he was quick. He was acrobatic. Um, I expected this match to be a little bit squashy, and it wasn't at all. Um, he got a hold of Gunther a couple of times. He put a couple of chest slaps on him, which I thought was funny and asking for retribution. Um, he had that 450, which was outstanding. Just looked with the hair flowing behind him, and it was a whole look. Looked good, landed it well. Um, Gunter won. Also, not to be uh, not surprising. Uh, not gonna lie, I did scream a little bit at the TV. Very excited for Gunter to win. Uh, would like to see more of Mustafa Ali. Hopefully, we'll get him in, some more regular weekly matches. I liked his style. I like to see, um, an athlete sometimes that is more agile, and he wasn't coming with bursts of speed. He was just constant speed, no breaks. And it was a really interesting juxtaposition of he and Gunter in the ring. Next, let's talk about Rhea Ripley versus Natalya. This was for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. Uh, I feel like there needs to be a title swap in the women's division at this point, just because they're on the wrong days. Anyway, um, Rhea pulling off the best of the the neck to foot coverings in the modified costumes that the women were wearing at Night of Champions. She could put that in her everyday rotation and still look completely in character and like a complete badass. Um, this match was squashy. I want to say it couldn't have been a 2-minute match. Um, Rhea had Natalya out pretty early. Uh, I'm hoping that that wasn't an audible because Natalya took an injury. She did go off the stairs pretty hard a couple of times in quick succession. Um, I always feel bad when somebody ends up with a squash match in a PLE. I feel like, you know, PLEs should be the place where you're in the spotlight and you're part of the showcase. Um, so to have a match like that intentionally makes me feel bad. I would feel worse if she was injured and that was kind of the resolution. Um, I'm also wondering if that's the case because of sort of the modified riptide that Rhea put on her at the end. That didn't seem very real-like. That said, always glad to see Rhea Ripley. Um, I do. I think she is the face of the women's division going forward. I like her style. I like how she works a mic. Um, I like her attitude. Yeah, I love her. I love Rhea Ripley. Uh, Bianca Belair versus Asuka. Asuka challenging Bianca for the Raw Women's Championship. One moment for a sip. This match was just okay. It was fine. Um, I thought their previous few matches have been better matches, frankly. Um, they seemed really out of step, out of sync with each other, with the exception of what I thought was really cute, and maybe it's twee or maybe it's something that people generally don't like, but they had a really nice sort of combo pin exchange where it was like, I'm going to pin you. All right, well, we're going to roll out of it and I'm going to pin you. Well, we're going to roll out of it and I'm going to pin you. Um, I really liked the effort to put that together. That didn't look easy, um, but it also looked really good. Um, but other than that, it felt kind of low energy. It felt sort of out of sync. Um, Asuka didn't look as crazy as she usually does. She still looked pretty crazy, um, but not as crazy. Uh, Asuka ended up winning. Uh, believe uh, believe I called that. So I was glad to see that happen. I'm really glad to see that happen because I feel like this is gonna signal a heel turn for Bianca Belair, and I would like to see what she does on that side of the coin, um, because I also think that um, benevolence and supporting children and women and non-white folk is really part of her character and her core as a human being, and I'm curious to see how she meshes that with more personality. Um, I can tell you she's gotten misted enough for a lifetime in the last couple of weeks, so if she doesn't have to deal with that again anytime soon, I think she'll probably be glad for it. Uh, and Ashka looked good with the belt, so and she seemed genuinely happy. I didn't realize how old she is. Not that she's like ancient old. I think it's hard to tell behind the face paint, but it never occurred to me that she wasn't a sprightly young uh, woman because that's what her character is, sort of a uh, like an evil elf to me, um, like a mean pixie. Um, but yeah, no, she's a grown ass woman in her 40s with kids, and um, so again, great character work there because I had no idea that's what was going on under the face paint. But she's always fun to watch. What else we got? What else we got? Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus. Let's talk a little bit about Saudi Arabia now. I told you guys the other day, this was the I don't give a fuck match. I gave you my reasons then. I'm not going to recap them again now. Um, but here was one of the rare occasions where the implementation, let me back this up and explain. One of the problems inherent to the Saudi governmental system is that they have this uh, comprehensive, complete, overpowering everything else. Absolute, that's the word. They have an absolute monarchy. The ruling family holds a lot of the senior government positions. They're the governors in all the states. They have all the ministry seats. The king is the prime minister. So, from a governmental legislative standpoint, it's one family doing a lot of that work. Saudi Arabia is a Muslim country. Do not require citizens to be Muslim, but it's strongly encouraged. Uh, uh, openly practicing other religions is not allowed in Saudi Arabia, so very strongly Muslim. And I'm trying to think of the best way to say things concisely and clearly. Um, Part of being a Muslim country is a strict adherence to Sharia law. And Sharia law is a set of rules and ethics and standards and permissions that are defined by Islam. So think of it as a moral code. So you've got government law and Sharia law, and they're not always the same thing. In a lot of cases, especially traditionally, Sharia law was the one that won. Seeing more and more that uh, the king or crown prince are making edicts and rules that take some of the edge off of some of the policies that have been implemented by Sharia law. But basically, it's saying this is what my religion says, and that is now law of the land, and you will all do what my religion says. So, part of that is the women must be modestly dressed at all times, and that includes not showing any skin. So, when the WWE does these Saudi events, into which women weren't even allowed to wrestle until relatively recently, um, female wrestlers have to be covered from head to toe. Can't have any skin hanging out. They don't have to cover their hair, but they do have to be completely covered. So, um, most of the female wrestlers still embellished their, you know, cat suit covering, whatever, to kind of fit their character. Becky and Trish didn't. They wore them pretty plain with just a stripe down the side. And I found that having a lot of the accoutrement and the glitz and the stuff about Trish not on full display, it made me appreciate her wrestling skills more. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. So, when there was nothing else to look at but how she was performing as an athlete, I had a better appreciation for how she performs as an athlete. Um, but it was still a pretty boring match, um, but not bad. It wasn't a bad match. It just was kind of a boring match. Um, wasn't expecting Trish to win. Wasn't expecting interference from up and coming new superstar Zoe Stark, who she under the ring all that time, because that was like maybe the fourth or fifth match. And I'm just wondering, like, how do they get people under there without anyone see? Or was she there since the start, just kind of chilling and watching a monitor, waiting for her cue? I don't know. Um, I feel like it's got to be pretty loud under the ring, just with all the goings on immediately ahead. Anyway, I don't think we've seen the last of Trish since she did get that win. I do have a new appreciation for some of the work she does in ring. It's not great. I don't love it, but she's not a complete poser. How's that? Um, yeah, I still didn't really care about the match, but it was better than I expected. Who else we got? Who else we got? Did I miss any? Oh yeah, and then there was that little tag team thing at the end. Holy shit, guys. Let's talk about that little tag team thing at the end. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn being challenged by Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. First, the love that Sami Zayn got making his entrance made me cry like a little bitch. I'm not going to pretend it was anything but. Um, I had seen his photos from the day before of him being at the Kaaba um, as a dude who last year wasn't even welcomed or felt safe in Saudi Arabia. For him to be able to go to Mecca this year and experience that, so happy for Sammy. So glad that the crowd was over for him. Um, I loved that he introduced himself and KO in Arabic. I loved watching Roman Reigns in his corner trying to make a full I'm happy for my friend grin look like it was his smug, cocky grin. But the joy for Sammy was coming through, and I thought that was just lovely. I did. I cried. I wept like a child. Um, that was just so touching to me, and for him to even be there was fantastic. So, um, long, long match. Um, a lot of missed spots. Not a lot of missed spots, but more than I expect from these four guys. Um, and I think to no one's surprise, uh, the Usos show up. Start to look a little dicey for Roman and Solo. Here come Jimmy and Jay. Um, glad to see him. Uh, I hate thinking that they flew all the way to Saudi Arabia and then were trapped in their hotel for like 3 days just eating room service because they couldn't go out and risk being seen because then the jig would be up, even though I feel like we all knew the jig was going to be up. Things get a little dicey between Jimmy and Jay and Roman. Jimmy and Jay go for a kick on Sammy, who dodges it, and they both uh, kick Solo square in the jaw and lay him out. Roman was out cold on the floor outside the ring. He comes to just in time to see uh, them kick Solo in the jaw, which of course infuriates the tribal chief. He's pissed off that they're there. He's pissed off that they just knocked out his tag team partner. He gets up in the ring and he gets in Jay's face. And he's screaming at Jay and he starts shoving Jay. And Jimmy Uso, prime time Jimmy Uso, says, "Oh hell no!" and super kicks Roman Reigns in the back of the head, drops him to his knees, and Jay is like, what are you doing, man?" And Jimmy is like, "This is exactly what you should have done a long time ago." And Jay's like, man, you can't do this, you can't do this. And Jimmy walks over and super kicks Roman in the head again and lays him out flat. And then Jimmy's like, we gotta go, man, we gotta go. And they booked it out. They stayed where they could kind of see what was going on at the top of the ramp, but they took off. So a few observations here. Shock that it was Jimmy, although we've learned now that Jimmy believes he might actually be the head of the table. I think everybody thought Jay was going to be the one to take that first step, but it was Jimmy. And I think maybe looking back at all the times that Jay has put himself on the line to protect Jimmy, maybe Jimmy felt like it was time to turn the tables. So real talk. I know folks who have grown up in um, dysfunctional families in abusive relationships. And, I wrote one who watches wrestling and they say this is such an honest portrayal of being a person in that situation where you're going to do or say whatever you have to do just to make it stop, even if that just means you get peace for, 10 minutes. And you're going to try to protect the other people, but you just want to make it stop. Um, and I think, somewhere in the entertaining drama of all of this, it's easy to forget that there are people that live like this for real. Like, it's not just something that you see in a wrestling show. There are families that this is their dynamic. Um, and you wonder, how long does it take the battered spouse or the kid to ever stand up and say, we're not doing this anymore, back, if they ever do. Um, so I thought it was interesting for someone to tell me that how true that dynamic is being portrayed on screen in the ring. After a few failed attempts, eventually Sammy gets that haluva kick on Solo, puts him out, pins him, match is done. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens retaining their tag team belts. But what a haluva way to do it, right? Like, I expected something crazy to happen. I didn't expect it to be this crazy. And I look back to just at SmackDown the day before, Sammy saying, like, the bloodline is collapsing and it's all your fault, Roman. I did not expect to see such a strong crack in that foundation until the next day. And, excuse me, I also appreciated after the event when KO and Sammy were still in the ring, KO grabbed the mic and said some very kind things about Jay and Jimmy. And, reminding folks that maybe Roman is the head of the table, but the Usos are the heart of that table. And I thought that was really well said and really nice. So apparently, Friday SmackDown is supposed to be the celebration of Roman's 1000th day as undisputed champion. We saw him invite the boys to the festivities. I can't imagine that they would show up. I mean, that's a lot of chutzpah. If they do show up, it's going to be a party like none other. And the wise man Paul Heyman did tweet yesterday or today that they were getting on the plane and going home, and they will be discussing this Friday on SmackDown. So, kind of excited about SmackDown on Friday. I love the Bloodline story. I know that it started a couple of years before I started wrestling, and I've gone back and kind of tried to fill in some of the knowledge here and there. But I love it. It's stuff like that that helps me be a wrestling fan, because I think if it was just people in the ring executing their move sets and stuff, I would be far less interested than to really get into a good crunchy story and um, watch the acting, because so much of wrestling is acting, not just the mic work, but how you sell, how you pull a punch. Um, so I thought that was a really, really satisfying finish to the event. Now let's talk more about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And again, I don't want to talk about how politically they are rife with corruption. I don't want to talk about how they are quite possibly sponsors of terrorist activities. I don't want to talk about their super strong commitment to censorship. I just want to talk about human rights. I want to talk about women need to have a male guardian. As if you were a child. A grown woman can't get a passport or travel abroad without permission of their male guardian, who, if they're married, is their husband. If not, it's their father, brother, uncle. Um, and there's no qualification for this person to be. They just are. They don't have to prove that they're competent at all. Until last year, women in Saudi Arabia could not file for a divorce without the permission of their male guardian. In the cases where the male guardian is their husband, you can see where this is problematic. And as a person in the US, we're starting to hear little whispers of that in our own political circles. And that's fucking terrifying. Um, a woman in Saudi Arabia can't file a police report without the permission of her male guardian. Again, what if your male guardian beats you? You can't file a police report without his permission. That's never going to happen. Um, there are some localized women's rights activists, and a number of them have been imprisoned, some for a few years, some indefinitely, and by all accounts, they're being tortured while they're in prison. They're being tortured by electrocution, flogged, they're being sexually assaulted. So just by going out and saying, we would also like to be considered human beings, they're being tortured. Saudi Arabia, their tourism board did a thing where they said LGBTQ plus people are now welcome in Saudi Arabia. Governmental law. But Sharia law still says homosexuality, being transgender, is immoral, it's indecent, and it needs to be punished. Homosexuals have been imprisoned for life. They've been deported. They've been flogged. They've been chemically castrated. And they've been killed for being. If I have to tell you why that's not okay, you are on the wrong channel, sports entertainment fans. Not okay in any way, shape, or form. Rape victims are being publicly beaten for committing adultery. Okay? Someone forces you to have sex with them. How? How? Now, of course, those are women. We're not talking about male rape victims. There certainly are, and that's a horrific thing too. But female rape victims, because they're women and don't have any rights, are being beaten for being the victim of a crime. As of 2018, women are now allowed to drive without a man in the car. They still need permission to leave their house, but if they get permission, they can drive the car. As of 2018, 5 years ago, women can now exercise in public or participate in sports. As of 2018, they can now receive education without permission, and they can get health care without permission. Because it used to be if you were a Saudi Arabian woman, your male guardian would go with you to the doctor, and he would have to okay whatever it was you wanted done or needed done. So you go to the gynecologist and they identify you've got some kind of growth and they want to take it out and check what it is to see what it is. And your male guardian says, no, the doctor's not going to do it. So I obviously don't run the WWE. I don't make business decisions for the WWE. I would probably be terrible at running a wrestling company. Um, I'm sure there are very good reasons, and they can't all be financial, as to why they continue to hold these events in Saudi Arabia. But I have to question. I have to question the integrity of a company that puts its employees, contractors, at risk for being arrested, punished, or worse, for a transgression they don't even know that they're committing. And that if they're a woman, they have no rights to defend themselves. So maybe they keep all their superstars like on a real short leash and keep an eye on them the whole time that they're there. I'm sure that they go through some cultural sensitivity training specific to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia before they go. But that's a really big risk to take with your talent that brings in your money and keeps you afloat. That they could do or say the wrong thing unawares and be imprisoned for that. I am done with that. I am off my high horse about it for now. But as I was watching and as I was thinking, it was really sort of upsetting to me that kind of being glossed over, and not in all circles, but in several. So I'm not one to gloss over. I'm one to educate, and I'm one to share what I'm feeling. So again, feel free to disagree. Hit me in the comments. Keep it respectful. Let's have a conversation. If you're going to call me names or come at me, that's not a respectful conversation. I'm not going to do that. But I welcome differing opinions. So disagree with me, say so. So overall, Night of Champions, I enjoyed it. It felt short. Maybe that's just because it was in the middle of the day. Um, there were some matches that surprised me. I enjoyed them more than I thought. The only real stinker match was Rhea Ripley and Natalya, and again, may have been intervening circumstances there. But no, it was a good PLE. There was a lot of good wrestling. There was a lot of good story and drama. Not sad that I watched it by any means. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what the fallout is from Night of Champions on SmackDown next week. I will be back Friday for SmackDown. So look for a new video from me, an hour or so after SmackDown is over. Yeah, I think that's it for today. So I will see you guys on Friday. Hang in there, sports entertainment fans, and enjoy your week.